being a nurse, you're not really in the present. You're always worrying about the future. You know, one of these business guys I listened to, he's just like, what's the point of the retirement money sitting in the retirement? You need to pull that out and use it now. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pull it out. Yes, sir, I'll pull it out. And I started having this voice internally. Are you really helping these people? When we give them the med, they just get addicted to it. Are meds helping? This inner voice within that was just telling me, like, Charmaine, you're just giving people meds. I think there's something missing here. There's something else you have to discover, and it's not here.
Hello, beautiful souls. Thank you for tuning in to my podcast. I am so happy to introduce you to the first guest of my podcast, Charmaine Horn. I met Charmaine almost a year ago, but I really didn't know what she did. We just met at our Tai Chi class, and, I just loved her personality. And it's only in the last few months that I really got to know her just because of what she does. She's one of the people who really inspired me on my journey to follow my heart, where I'm just in the beginning stages of it. And just watching other people like Charmaine have really, really inspired me. And I'm so grateful to have found her. Charmaine, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here and really excited.
Yay! So why don't you tell the audience, what is it that you do?
Sure. So thank you again for having me. My name is Charmaine. I'm a Qigong teacher. I'm also a registered nurse. And right now my goal is to help healers, healthcare workers, nurses, people who give to others, and help them be grounded in the work they do through Qigong, which is a type of Chinese moving meditation.
You also mentioned that you're a registered nurse.
Mm-hmm.
And now you teach Qigong. What has your journey been like from being a registered nurse to then, going into Qigong? How did that transition happen for you?
Yeah, it was quite a journey. It was not expected at all. I came into nursing. I come from a family of nurses. My mom's a nurse, my twin's a nurse, and we just, I don't know, my whole life I was just like, oh, okay, I'm going to go into nursing. So I was a psychiatric nurse for 8 years in an acute geriatric and adult psych unit. And what I noticed being a nurse was, after taking care of so many people after 8 years, the primary thing we did for them is give them medication. And when I gave them meds, when they were in acute situation, it was helpful. Like people who maybe were thinking of killing themselves, or they want to hurt themselves or others, it's like, of course, medications in that aspect is really helpful. But when it came to long-term mental well-being, I just didn't think the meds were the whole picture. It was just like people kept coming back to the hospital, people's habits weren't actually changing, and people actually developed dependency on the meds. So that sort of set me on this journey. Like I got this inner voice within that was just telling me, like, Charmaine, you're just giving people meds. I think there's something missing here. There's something else you have to discover, and it's not here. It's not in the hospital. So I just had this voice over and over. Every time I'm working over and over, it's like, you got to leave. You got to find another way. There's another way to help people that's missing. So finally I left in 2020 during COVID, and then it just set me off on this whole path. Long story short, like I left, then eventually I found Qigong, and you could ask me other aspects of that if you'd like, but yeah, ultimately that's where, when I left, that's where I led to.
Well, 8 years is definitely a long, long time.
Mm-hmm.
And just to understand, your entire family has been in nursing.
Mm-hmm.
So, that is what you knew and you were familiar with. So it probably took a lot of courage.
Oh yeah.
For you to
Right.
transition into Qigong. And when did you first start noticing this voice speaking to you that, Charmaine, you got to lead? When over this 8-year period did that start happening? And what made you finally quit? I would assume because your family has been in nursing and you were there for 8 years. Like, when did you decide to start honoring that voice? Or was it just suddenly, one day you woke up and you were like, you're leaving? How was that transition for you?
Right. That's a great question. So in the beginning, I was really immersed in nursing and I had all these ideas like I'm going to get my nurse practitioner degree and things like that. But then as I started working there, maybe around 5 to 6 years in, it just felt like Groundhog Day. Like I just felt like I was doing the same things. I get up, go to the hospital, give meds, give the patients a bath, do my charting. It just started to feel redundant. And I'm really like a problem solver. Like I was trying to solve all these problems in the unit. Like I do all those sorts of projects to improve the quality of care. Even though I was doing those things, I started having this voice internally, like with 5 to 6 years in, where it's just like, are you really helping these people? That was kind of like voices like, is what you're doing actually making an impact right now? Because when you're in a certain degree of work for that long, you could kind of gauge whether or not what you're doing is really helping. Cause it's just like after so many years, so you see the same people coming back. You don't see people changing. I think it just kind of wears on you and you're just starting to reconsider like, oh, why is it that the patients aren't getting better? You start to question things like why is it that when we give a medication, when you give one medicine, it takes 2 to 4 weeks to see if that works. Then they switch them on another med. It takes another 2 weeks to see if that works. It's like, why is it like this? And when we give them the med, they just get addicted to it. Our med's helping. So I kind of got in a questioning phase. And then that's when my brain was starting to want to find other opportunities. And then also, I forgot to mention in 2020, one thing that was pivotal was a patient was getting anxious on the unit. And then the patient came to me and asked me, oh, can you bring a computer into my room and play a video with Tai Chi movements so it could help me calm down? And I had never heard of Tai Chi at the time, really. Like I knew about it kind of, but not really. So I was like, sure, why not? So I brought in a computer. I just looked up a random YouTube video with easy Tai Chi movements. And then I played the video and we both did the video together. And when I did the movements with the patient, I was like, oh, this makes me feel calm. So that was kind of a pivotal moment of like, oh, this is really helpful for anxiety. And I didn't have to give this patient a medicine. So that got my wheels turning a little bit.
You just mentioned that it was helping you feel calm. What was your experience working as a psychiatric nurse? How was it making you feel? Because you also said that there were several times that you had repeat patients. Just because you said that it made you feel calm, I'm picking up on the fact that working there was not a calming.
Not the most calming experience.
Yes.
Really, I think a lot of people in the healthcare settings can relate, but it's very fast paced. I was working at UCLA and it was an acute psychiatric hospital. So we get patients who are mostly there for the most part against their will. So you get a lot of people who don't believe they need to be hospitalized. So they'll be agitated. They'll be argumentative. They don't want to be there. They don't want to take their meds. You also have a patient assignment. Honestly, I'm in California. We have mandatory patient ratios. So it's nice. Other states, they have to take on more patients. But anyway, it's a fast work pace. There's constant interruptions in your work. You're doing one thing, the call lights go on, someone needs this, somebody fell over there. Like there's just like so many things going on that you have to keep track of. It's a very reactive work. Like you just always have to be on, like your nervous system's constantly on, like you can't rest. So if you take a break too, there's stigma of like, oh, you're sitting down, you're lazy, or oh, you're not working hard enough. Oh, so there's like things like that, but you're just constantly go, go, go. And you always have to check, especially in a psychiatric unit, you always have to be making sure nobody's hurting themselves. Nobody's like hiding things. Nobody's stealing harmful objects that they could hurt themselves with. So you always have to be on alert, like checking the room, scanning all the time. So your nervous system's never taking a break.
Wow. That sounds very intense.
A little bit.
I can totally understand why then Tai Chi calms you down.
Right.
Yeah. So that was during COVID. You said it was in 2020. So I guess it sounds like that was a light bulb went off kind of a moment. So from then on, looking at this video and this patient that introduced you to Tai Chi, what was this patient's demeanor? Because, you know, it sounds like this was a needle in a haystack kind of situation, that the patient knew that the patient was there, but they also wanted to invest time experiencing the flow that comes from Tai Chi.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say was different about this patient? And how did this exposure then give you the courage to decide to quit? And I'm sure reaching Qigong wasn't a straight line. I'm sure I'm sure that you know, explored to get there. So what was that journey like for you from this light bulb moment to then finally reaching the destination of Qigong?
Right. There are a lot of things going on. First, I'll say about the patient. Normally in that unit, we would get pretty acute patients, but the place I was working at, it was a combination of medical psychiatry. So if they were more agitated, they would go to a different floor. So they weren't always super aggressive in my unit, but this patient, he had much more awareness. He knew that he had to be there. So he was much more, I guess, you know, wanting help. So that's not something you always see. So that was nice.
A blessing.
A blessing.
It was a blessing. It was a blessing in your life.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, he was the first, honestly, very, very few patients ever asked me for help. So that was kind of a blessing that he asked for that. But yeah, so he was very aware. And then I also had a lot of other thoughts going on too, because at the time I was also interested in life coaching. I got much more interested in learning about the mind, like making habit changes with your thoughts and incorporating things like cognitive behavioral therapy and mindset work and thought work. I was looking a lot at that. So I had been already coaching some clients off the unit. Like I was already starting to develop a life coaching practice at the same time. But none of the coaching that I was doing was really somatic, which somatic means body-based. It wasn't really going into the body like the Tai Chi. So that's when I did the Tai Chi. I was kind of like, oh, that's so interesting that I don't have to change a thought to be calm. I could just move my body and I'm calm. Versus when you do something like life coaching or mindset coaching, it's always like, oh, change your thoughts and then you feel better. So it was a different approach.
Wow. So the first time you did Tai Chi, what did you feel in your body as compared to the life coaching? Because I think when we are talking to somebody, you know, you can be reflective. And I think that is the part that goes into your heart and soul. But most of the time, people tend to stay in the mental layer, right? And they're not diving that deep. So when you were doing Tai Chi for the first time with this blessing of a patient.
Blessing.
Yes. I'm so glad this patient was there in your life. Seems like this patient changed the trajectory of your life.
Yeah.
So grateful for the blessing in your life.
Thank you.
So what did you feel in your body the first time you did Tai Chi? Because it seems to be profound.
Right. Well, as a nurse, you're always on the go and you never sit down really, besides just to do your documentation. So it was nice to have just some space to move without thinking about the next task or my next priority. Whenever I'm working, it's always like, what do I do next? What do I do next? I have to do this. I have to do this. But then when I was in that moment, just doing that, it was maybe like a 10-minute video or something, but just in that moment, it's like all my time is only focused on the present. And being a nurse, you're not really in the present. You're always worrying about the future. So it was a nice sort of sneak peek into what it's like to just be grounded and present. And as a nurse at that time, I had no idea what the heck that was. Even though I was in coaching, we didn't emphasize things like mindfulness or being grounded or in the present moment. It was really all like up in the head and just like, let's look at our thoughts. But it wasn't so much about how do you actually get into your body, get out of your mind, get into the reality of this moment now, and actually just enjoy being in this moment. So it felt really relieving. It felt really light. And it's just like, oh, the whole world isn't crashing down on me in this moment. That's kind of nice. So yeah. So yeah.
That's so important, this point of the present moment, because I think most of the time when you're in the future, your body is not feeling a sense of safety.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's almost like you have to do all these things. You have to accomplish all these tasks. And it's also, I could imagine as a nurse, you would think that the safety of your patient is of paramount importance.
Right.
So when you're always in the future, you are not feeling safe because your sense of safety responsibility is tied to the well-being of your patients. So it highlights such a good point about just being present and feeling safe in your body, knowing that you can actually feel that moment of connection and being in your body.
Yeah.
And it's so incredible how many of us miss that just because we are running around in our everyday lives. It's so important to slow down.
Oh, yeah.
From what you're just describing. Yeah.
Yeah, we have so much stimuli right now. There's so much going on, that so many things competing for our attention. And then in the unit, it's kind of like amplified times 10 because everything wants your attention. It's not just something you could put off. It's like the phone, the people coming to the desk, the call light, just like everything's competing for your attention.
Wow.
And so one thing I struggled with a lot as a nurse, I always stayed overtime in the beginning, especially because I thought everything was important. And I was like, I need to respond to everything. And so I struggled delegating and the time management. So everything was a priority. So it's like my nervous system was like, everything matters. So I couldn't have that ability to discern and just really see, oh, what's your actual priority? That rational part of the brain's just switched off. It's just like, you're gonna die right now, right now. It's really hard to be discerning when your nervous system's like,
And in that time when you were a nurse, over 8 years, what would you say was the amount of time you spent doing self-care or just having me time? What was life like then?
Well, in the beginning, it was all about work. I didn't have any self-care habits in the beginning. Right when I graduated nursing school, it was like nursing school is all about nursing. I didn't have a social life. I didn't have a self-care routine. It's all studying. And then when I graduated, I took that with me. But then in 2013, I started getting more into fitness. I ran my first half marathon, and then that set me on a whole trajectory. That's a whole nother story. But I got really into fitness. I got into running, races, and marathons, half marathons. So I did a lot of that. So that was like my self-care. But the only issue with that was, I'd feel good when I exercised, but right when I got to work, I felt like
you felt it all again.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. I felt like it didn't matter. It was like, have you been watching the show Severed or no?
No, but I
Severance?
think, I think
feels like that.
I think I felt the gravity of your, energy when you said the word poop. I think
right? That sums it all up pretty well.
I get it. That is a very powerful description in one word.
It is. It just
thank you for being so creative.
You're so welcome. But yeah, it really did feel like that. It's like when I'm exercising, I'm good. And then when I'm work, I'm just like, psh. And then, so when I'm at work, I'm constantly craving to escape. I'm like, I want the vacation. I want the workout. It's just like being at work was, oh, this is so miserable. Like I need to leave, counting the days till vacation. It was always like that.
When did you finally accept that to yourself? Because there's so many of us, including me, we think that we put in so much effort to something, right? Our degrees and, we are pursuing a career, and we have our jobs. But when do you really sit down with yourself and confront yourself to say, okay, I did that because I thought I wanted to do it, but the truth of the matter is that I'm actually miserable. And when did you finally have the courage to sit down with yourself and accept that point?
Accept the point of not numbing certain things, like just being with myself, being with my feelings. Is that what you
just concluding that, no, this is miserable. This is not the life that I want to have. When did you have that conversation with yourself?
I think just when I got into life coaching, because the good thing about life coaching and thought work is it does reveal the thoughts I wasn't aware of in my mind. It makes me more aware of what I'm actually thinking about my situation. Like I had no idea that I even have this whole narrative in my mind or these conditioned beliefs and things like that. So maybe about 6 years into nursing or 7 years, once I started knowing about life coaching, and it would say things about, gain awareness of your thoughts and gain awareness of your feelings. And then that's when I kind of realized, yeah, I don't really like this. And that, and also another clue, which is really big, is I'd wake up every day and I'm just like, I don't want to get up. Like, oh my God, I don't want to get up. Should I call in sick? I called in sick 2 weeks ago. I could call in sick again, right? Just having that conversation.
Yeah.
Then it became a constant conversation. I don't want to get up. Gosh, I don't want to go into the hospital. Gosh, I want to call in sick. It was just much more frequent.
That's interesting.
Right.
And because you had family in nursing, what was their experience like? I know you said, if I'm correct, if I'm remembering correctly, you said your mom and your twin both were nurses.
Mm-hmm.
So did they ever describe the situation to you? Did they describe this feeling of, making excuses to not be at work, or anxiety, or being tired? Like, did you ever come across them expressing this side of nursing to you earlier?
Well, my mom wanted me to be a nurse and she loves nursing. I've never heard her say any bad thing about nursing ever.
Okay.
Every time I talk to her, she's just like, oh, nursing's the best and it's the best job. It got me so many opportunities. So yeah, I never heard her say anything like that. I don't know if it has to do with her coming from all the way from the Philippines and just, I'm not sure. She's very tough, very resilient woman. I never heard her say anything, not even about anxiety or anything. She never talks about her feelings like that, but definitely my twin sister, that we have really similar feelings,
Wow.
I mean, she was only in the bedside for like a couple of years before she left. Now she's like in a administrative nursing position.
Okay.
But yeah, she wasn't in the clinical setting very long with patients. But yeah, we'd feel very similar anxiety and, dread and things like that.
It clearly feels like to your mom it was a fulfilling profession,
right?
And it kind of highlights of how different people are different. While one task feels fulfilling for one person, it might not be fulfilling for the other person, because I believe we are all souls and we have a voice that's like going, that our heart is speaking to us since we are kids, and there are so many things, so many paths that we take because it's all like glitter and shiny and you want to do this. And sometimes we also take up the path that's familiar or unfamiliar, but partly familiar. And we think that we're comfortable with it. But clearly from what you're saying, it was very fulfilling to your mom, but it was not fulfilling to you and your twin sister.
Right. And, we've been walking that, it's her dream, it's like she wanted us to have she had a certain idea of what she wanted us to do in our lives. And she has this belief system, which is really common, especially in the Filipino culture of that a nursing job is very secure. It's a really great way to have guaranteed income. So you'll see that a lot with Filipino cultures. It's a joke that parents always tell their kids to be a nurse. It's just like a thing. But then it just helped me realize that's not my path though, at least not in the clinical setting. But ever since I was young, I knew I was a creative person and I loved art. Both me and my twin sister, we both are really creative. We love art. We love writing. And I just remembered one day I was talking to my mom, telling her I wanted to be a writer. And she was just like shooting that down, just like, oh no, that doesn't make any money. And then I was so sad. I wrote to Highlights magazine. Do you remember Highlights magazine?
Not really, because I've been across so many magazines that I'm sure I might have heard of it, but off the top of my head, I do not recollect it.
Okay. Well, Highlights magazine is like a children's magazine and they have like all sorts of stories in it. And I always read it when I was like in the dentist's office in the waiting room. And so I got so upset when my mom said I couldn't be a writer. So I wrote to Highlights magazine. Oh, my mom says that I shouldn't be a writer. What should I do? And then they wrote back to me and then they said, oh yeah, your mom's right. Like, really? They're like, your mom's right. Writers don't make a lot of money. oh my God, well, I guess I'll just be a nurse then.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
I just felt like, my dreams were just like shot down. So then I lived a big portion of my life going the path that she expected for me.
And I think financial security is one of the big reasons why we did what we did, right? Even I quit my job, you quit nursing. So I think it's because it's a secure path, and we know that we're going to be okay if we follow this path. In contrast to pursuing our own path where you completely lose security, financial security.
Absolutely.
So how was it navigating that for you? Did you have any support? Like, were people talking you down from making that decision? Were people encouraging you to make that decision? Because of course it seems like nobody in your family might have made this decision before.
No.
So how did you navigate that?
I know it's still challenging. Literally on the last day of my job as a nurse, and I was telling people I was doing, literally, I just remember people saying, well, at least you have nursing to, support you still. Like, if this doesn't work out, at least you always got nursing. Like, that was just how people were approaching me. So it was really challenging, but I feel like when you want something to work, like you'll find a way. So I did manage to find, like, I had savings from nursing. So I was really grateful for that. Like, I had a lot of savings from that job. So it did help me invest in coaching programs and get support from people that I needed. But the universe really does provide. If you trust it, I feel it like it provides. Like, it was so interesting when I was a nurse, I was the breadwinner, and me and my husband, I was working as a software engineer, but he wasn't making as much money as me. So I was making more money and I was supporting him. And then when I left my nursing job, he got fired from that other job he was in. And then he found a much more higher paying programming job, like way higher. He's getting paid way more than I was ever paid as a nurse. It's like, what the heck? But anyway, so now he's supporting me. And it's just crazy that the universe is supporting in that way.
Surprising ways, right? Because we would have initially thought that getting fired is a bad thing.
Right.
Turns out to be, it was a great blessing that you couldn't see at the time.
Yeah, I would have never expected that he would have been fired and then he'd find this way better job. Like, what? So
yeah,
I don't know. There's always a way. It's always providing somehow. So yeah. And then I also found jobs. Like, I worked at an acupuncture office and I also worked at a mental health clinic. So I did find other jobs too. But I think when you have the mindset of like, there's always an opportunity, you will find it.
And that's a very important point for all of us, just because I started on this journey too. You have been on this journey for a bit now. Like, you have come to trust that the universe will provide.
Right.
And it has. It has.
Right.
And that's a very beautiful and profound truth, right? Like, if you're in that mindset to follow your heart, again, because it's written in The Alchemist and so many places, that the universe will conspire to help you with what you really want. I'm sure I'm not saying it completely as it is written, but that's the essence of it. And it's just beautiful the way you put it from your experience.
Right. It was scary though, not gonna lie. Just saying to anybody who's leaving a job that had a steady paycheck, like, it is a lot to navigate, because when you don't have that, your nervous system will need to adjust, because you have to be a little bit more used to not having that certain amount of income as consistently. So then you do have to start looking at your beliefs around money. So you do have to do a lot of money work, and you do have to do a lot of regulation with that. But then once you start to see that there are always opportunities, that you're never ever poor, quote unquote, unless you really just do nothing, but there really is always an opportunity somewhere. Whenever I looked for a job, if I needed money, there was always an opportunity.
Can we talk about this belief system around money? Because I think anybody who is going to take the leap of quitting their job where you have a secure paycheck coming to you, twice weekly or once monthly, whatever is the process. When you're used to that, experiencing that scary moment that paycheck has stopped, navigating that is quite difficult. And you brought up a very important point about the belief system around money. So, and you also said that your nervous system has to get accustomed to this new way of being where you do not have that consistent paycheck. So can you talk more about how it was exploring those belief systems for you?
Right. No, it's really interesting because you start to gain awareness of how all these beliefs around money were really passed down to you from your parents. One of my biggest ones that I felt really guilty about was when I left. First of all, it was helpful to develop savings and have that. But once the savings ran out for me, then I tapped into my retirement, you see.
Okay. So you did. Everybody says like, do not touch the retirement.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But you did.
Yeah. And that was the beliefs I was battling against. It was like my parents' belief system of like, never tap into your retirement. That's bad. But I was like, shoot, but I want to invest in my business. So I'm going to tap into it. And I felt so guilty. I was like, oh my gosh, like, man, I'm using my retirement. You know, it brought up a lot of guilt. And then I think the hardest thing to navigate is the feelings that come up from doing those things that your parents told you, this is bad, never do this. And then you're going against that. It brings up a lot of feelings. Your nervous system is really like, you shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. Remember, this is bad. So you have to really learn how to sit with that fear and the discomfort. You have to know how to hold space for yourself, how to comfort yourself, how to self-soothe. One of the biggest reasons why I like Qigong is that it is a great way to self-soothe and to be present with all those feelings. And also deciding for yourself, okay, I know that these were the beliefs that my parents taught me, but I get to decide if I want to reinforce that or not. And I get to decide, okay, just because I'm pulling out of retirement, does that really mean that I'm not set for my whole life? If I'm 30 something right now and I'm, you know, retiring at 60, does that really mean if I pull out of retirement right now that I won't have any money in the future? Just questioning those beliefs and starting to decide for myself, oh, okay, why is it helpful for me right now? And what do I want to believe about money? Like intentionally, how do I want to look at it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, because I'm kind of there too myself, I think about this question a lot about the retirement fund. It's almost like if I'm trying to create security for me in the future, I'm already telling myself that whatever I'm about to do is not going to make enough money to then support me in the future.
Mm-hmm.
But then why would I do that? If I believed in myself, I wouldn't fear taking this risk, you know?
Right.
So that's kind of where I am at. But seems like you overcame that.
Right. It was really hard. Very challenging.
I'm so proud of you.
It took a lot of coaching and just a lot of uncovering really uncomfortable emotions and guilt. I felt like guilt around taking it out. That was heavy for me. But then it's really true though. It's just like, it's just really questioning what you were taught and it's just like, okay, you know, I want to make this investment now because it's going to nurture my business in the future. And this isn't irresponsible. I kept thinking it was irresponsible. I'm like, oh, it's not irresponsible. Like I'm doing this to support me in the future. And, ultimately it's like tapping into your values. For me, I value putting my money into something that is aligned with my life and living a life that's in alignment with me and not staying in a job that's not in alignment with me. That to me is a higher priority and a higher value, even if I have to pull out of retirement for that. Some people aren't wanting to do that. You just have to kind of be really in tune with your own values. Are you willing to do that for yourself? You know, is that a risk you're willing to take? What do you value more? You know, the security or what's in alignment with you sort of thing.
Yeah. That is a very challenging part about following your heart because the voice in your heart is unique, right? So it's almost like what you are doing, nobody has ever done. And it is a completely new path that you're creating for yourself. And you'll find a little bit from here and there from how everybody's doing the things that they're doing. And you can get a little inspiration from everybody, but it is up to you how you piece it together for your life. And that's the most challenging part about following what's in your heart.
Right.
And how do you feel right now to having made that decision a few years ago when you decided to pull out of your retirement fund and you went through all of these guilt and, you know, processed all of these feelings? How do you feel about it right now? How do you feel about pulling money out of your retirement fund right now?
Oh, now I'm grateful for it. Oh, I'm glad I pulled it out because I needed money when I left, and it supported me. And I don't know, I was grateful for what it served. I don't regret it. And if I didn't pull it out, it would just be sitting there. Like, I want to use it now so I could build the life that I want. Like, I remembered I was listening to all sorts of business podcasts and financial things, and I don't know, one of these business guys I listened to, he's just like, what's the point of the retirement money sitting in the retirement? Like, you need to pull that out and use it now. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna pull it out. I'm like, yes, sir, I'll pull it out right now. Cause it's like, I want to invest in my life. And like, it's like sitting in my bank account. Is that really helping me now? You know? So it's just like, what life do I want? Like, that to me, happiness doesn't mean having a fat retirement account and having a house and kids. That's not my idea of a perfect life. To me, it's like, oh, I want to give to people. I want to teach people how to regulate their nervous system and teach them Qigong. And, I want to give to others. And, I don't know how my retirement account's looking right now, but, I honestly, I don't know, in my opinion, I don't even really know if I want to retire, honestly, but anyway, I'm just like looking at like what matters to me, you know?
Yeah. And that's kind of being in the present, and seems like that's what brings most fulfillment to you.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm noticing from your life, when you're in fulfillment, it flows.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, then we don't have to worry. I'm not saying that there aren't challenging times. Of course, there are challenging times, but I think fulfillment is so key to driving these things. And when you were talking about the fact that you had savings and you have the retirement fund, now that I'm looking at it and I'm in that space myself, it's not like I have a lot of money, but I would like to reflect and thank myself, like, oh my God, I saved that money for me.
Yeah. Not everyone does.
Like you
know?
did,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like you saved money from nursing, and you actually had your being arranged for you.
Right.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, I love that. I'm like, oh, I'm glad that I had my back to support myself on this path, you know?
Mm-hmm. And that's such a beautiful feeling. And I started noticing so much self-love for myself. I was like, wow, I provided for myself. And that's kind of what you did for yourself too.
Yeah.
Like that your retirement fund, your savings helped you pull through. And that is because of your self-love towards yourself.
Oh, well, thank you. I love that, looking at it that way. I'm like,
yeah,
oh, thank you. I appreciate myself.
Yes,
like, oh,
yes. Because I think not many people recognize that part on these journeys, right?
And I just want to say too, it's what's more right? Like, what's the most correct investment? Because everyone says you got to save for a house or save for whatever emergencies. Okay, emergency fund, that is helpful to have. But I just want to say that it's like, okay, but what is more correct? Like, why is it more correct to invest in a retirement versus investing in like your own business? Why is one better than the other? You know what I mean? If it's your money and you created that support for yourself, then you get to decide how you want to invest in it in a way that fulfills you. And there's no right or wrong, basically.
Yeah. And I think, again, we want to be very careful of saying that there's no right or wrong, because it's fulfilling the cup that is most meaningful to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like for some people, it is meaningful to fulfill in that retirement fund.
Right.
But seems like for you and me, we want to fill our cup of whatever brings fulfillment to us at this moment. And we are not really thinking about the future.
Right.
Should we think about the future? Should we not think about the future?
Like, I don't know.
We don't know. I
don't know.
That is a risk you take when you're living in the present.
Right.
And, you know, it's scary.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I feel like it works out when you're using your head and heart together.
Mm-hmm.
I think your mind has a purpose to play in supporting your heart. And there are times that your heart might go la 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 la.
Right. Oh, definitely. Yep.
And your mind will be like, hey, heart, I know you want that, but maybe we can do this 2 weeks later.
Yeah,
You
like,
know?
let's sleep on that, and then we'll circle back to it.
What was this like for you, balancing the head and the heart? Because I'm sure there are sometimes your head squishing your heart and your heart is totally judging your head. How do you bring them to balance?
Qigong, but like honestly though, I think first of all, because I'm a projector, like in human design, I'm a projector, so I'm told that I have to sleep on decisions before I make decisions, because I could be kind of impulsive sometimes. Mm-hmm. So now my rule of thumb is, okay, just wait on it. Like before you make an investment, wait on it 24 hours or a week, whatever you have to do. And if you really keep feeling the pull to go back to it, and if it's going to have a good return in the future, then trust, mm-hmm. Trust that it's there for a reason, because I definitely have made a lot of decisions too that people wouldn't understand that served me in the long run. Like, me being with my husband, like, he was out of college in the time we were together. But I had this feeling of like, no, I like this guy. He's the one. Even though he didn't go to, like, I don't know, Harvard or whatever, I was like, I like this guy. So I just trusted that. And then now he's supporting me. So yeah, I do want to trust my instinct, but wait before I make a rash decision though.
That is a very important point about trusting your instincts. And you mentioned a lot of people didn't understand what you're doing. How was that for you? Did they discourage you? Did they try to understand what you're doing? Did they try to understand where you're coming from? Cause that's the tricky part, right? Sometimes we have people who are more experienced than us in life, right? Mm-hmm. And, you want to take their opinion and, you really want to apply it to your life, mm-hmm. but it doesn't apply to you and you're certain about something. How did the friends, family, mentor, all of the support work out in your life? Or on the contrary, did you find yourself losing people or finding a disconnection with people in your life because they were not understanding what you're about to do and could not connect with you anymore?
I feel like the people closest to you are the ones that are going to be probably the harshest critics.
Okay.
At least in my experience. But yeah, I still struggle to tell my parents about it because they still don't quite understand where I'm coming from. They don't know what the heck Qigong is. They're like, what is this? It's not a medical, or what is this crazy thing you're doing? So every time I do see them, they still ask me, oh, how's your retirement? Are you making money? You could get this nursing job. My friend has an opening in this hospital, So they always bring up that conversation still. So it's been very challenging, especially in the beginning. It felt like I wasn't getting their approval. I wasn't the good daughter. I wasn't the one getting their love because now I'm doing something that they don't approve of. I had to learn not to take their judgments or their words so personally, not make it mean something about me or my worth. It could still be very challenging though to separate that as a daughter, So I did have to distance myself from them for a bit. Like I did have to just make space and just figure things out and just do my own thing. Cause I don't know, the more I hear their judgments, the more it could make me question myself.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to distance myself from that. I don't know if that's the best solution, but for me, it was helpful. And then also just learning to hold space for their reaction. Just learning, okay, they're allowed to think whatever they want.
Yeah.
I can't control anybody. I can never change their opinion. They're allowed to think that.
Yeah.
And that's okay that they don't agree with me. Like learning to be okay with disagreeing and being okay with not being liked by some people or not being liked, like the decisions I'm making, people not liking that.
Yeah. And I think this concept of holding space is so important because you are seeing an opinion or a person as they are. You're not really adding any bias or judgment that you have,
right?
But completely holding space for what that is. Mm-hmm. And that would mean for your parents, they say what they're saying out of love from their perspective. And it might not apply to you because, you have become this whole person, whole different person. But it's also comes from love, but there's also judgment in it. But it is love and judgment, and recognizing that both aspects of it is so crucial, and holding space for it puts you at a distance where you can actually see that.
Right.
You can see both sides of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, and in a way that's wholeness, right? Like we are not picking and choosing what we like.
Right.
We are acknowledging what is. And that's why the concept of holding space is so beautiful, which you do in your Qigong class.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. Cause, while we are flowing through Tai Chi and Qigong, like we are holding space for whatever that's coming up in our body, without judgment, because it is what it is. And, at the end of the day, the origin of everything is love.
Yes.
It is love for something, right?
Exactly.
Like, even war, unfortunately, is because of something that we love. And, we are not recognizing that and reflecting and going so deep into our feelings to recognize that.
Right.
And that's sad. And that is why people need to reflect to get deeper in understanding what are the deeper feelings here than the surface feelings of like restlessness, agitation. Because when we don't go deeper, we're at the surface and we can't even recognize where it's coming from.
Right.
But the origin to everything is love.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And what they are saying to me about money, it's out of love. It's out of concern and holding space for that, their reactions and their thoughts and opinions. It just helped me have more compassion with them and not want to judge them. And like, cause I don't want to judge them, and I don't want to, cause I have gone into that where I'm like, oh, you don't understand me. Like a little teenager.
We all have done that.
Okay, great. I'm not the only one. Great.
You're not the only one.
Thank you. I could still be like that too sometimes, but it taught me a lot to have compassion, to accept everyone's different. Everyone has different opinions, and that's okay. To have more compassion toward myself and others. Cause it's truly what it was about, is when they are judging me, it brings up my own insecurities from within. Oh, I'm not only holding space for them, but also holding space for myself and my own voices in my head. So it's kind of a trip, but yeah, learning how to not judge myself so harshly. That's what I love about Qigong too. Like when you do the moving meditation, all these thoughts will come up in your head, and it's like, oh, can you just stay in the present moment and do these flows and not take those thoughts so personally, But yeah.
That's wonderful. How long have you had your business? Bringing Qigong into your life. It's been recent in a way, but how has it changed your life?
Oh, a lot. I started practicing in 2022. The biggest thing, so in 2020, when that patient told me about Tai Chi, I was actually practicing Tai Chi videos when I left my nursing job, and I was just at home. I was just super stressed from COVID, from leaving my job, just all sorts of things. So I actually was doing Tai Chi videos on YouTube at home to help me with my stress, because I was like, oh, I remember what that patient told me. So I started doing Tai Chi videos at home. So that was in 2020. And then I kind of stopped doing it because Tai Chi could get a little complicated. I just stopped doing it. I was like, oh,
the technique.
It's the technique. It takes a lot of practice.
It does.
Dedication. And I was like, well. And then later on in 2021, I joined a MBSR program, like mindfulness-based stress reduction. And that taught me a lot more about meditation. And then I knew somebody there who, she knew about Qigong. Like she told me about it. And so Qigong is a lot more simpler than Tai Chi. Tai Chi is more martial in its origin, and it's more complex movements. And then Qigong is more usually individual movements repeated over and over in a meditative way. And that was a lot more simple to learn. So I was like, oh, I like this. I could just be in the present moment. So I started practicing more of that. That was 2022 that I started doing it. And then also in 2022, a lot of things were going on with me physically. I had a knee injury because, like I said, I was really into fitness. I'm still into fitness. And I did that year, 2022, I did LA Marathon. I did this Ragnar race where you run, it's like a relay race. You run a lot of miles 200 miles in the weekend, but you split it among 12 runners. And then I also did the Spartan race, 3 races in a weekend. So I was doing a lot of running, a lot of endurance running. And then finally, November of that year, I did this workout and I don't know what happened, but the next day after that workout, I just couldn't walk.
Oh.
I was in bed and I just remember being in bed and I can't bend my knees. It was like too painful. I couldn't walk. I was
Wow,
like,
that's
what?
drastic after
Yeah. Yeah. It was
doing all these marathons and everything.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, my knee is messed up. So I couldn't do anything. I went from going from 100 to 0
Real fast.
Yeah, real fast. Like boom. So then that led me to Qigong. I remember Qigong is simple movement. So I started doing Qigong and then it reminded me, oh, this is helpful for my stress. And then I was also going through some loss in that year. So it helped me with grief. So it helped me with a lot, like grief, my physical injuries, anxiety, stress, just being more connected and present in the moment. So, but that was my biggest, the biggest shift when I started.
So sounds like you were into nursing, then you got into life coaching, and then you got into fitness.
Right.
And then you decided to start a business in Qigong. When did you make that decision from all this timeline? When did you make that decision to that, like when you said, okay, Qigong is my jam? When did you say that? And when did you say that, okay, I'm going to invest my time, my money, my soul into starting a Qigong business? When did that happen for you?
Well, to put a little bit of timeline, so I started my life coaching business 2019, and then I was already getting life coaching clients, so that helped me leave my nursing job in 2020. And then I started coaching clients. I was coaching them on emotional eating and weight loss and sugar cravings. And what I realized with that coaching was it's hard to coach people who eat emotionally on thoughts alone, because they don't know how to sit with their feelings. The reason why they overeat is because it's their way of numbing emotions. And then when I was coaching my clients, no matter how much we can coach on the mind, they're not going to stop overeating because they want to escape the feeling. I need to learn how to help them sit in their body. So at the same time I was doing Qigong in 2022, Qigong is a nice practice where I'm in my body. Maybe I could teach it to my weight loss clients.
And you discovered that for yourself.
Right. I just made that connection on my own. I was seeing in my own results, my weight loss clients weren't able to stop emotionally eating. They really struggled with it still. They struggled being in their body. And I was teaching them meditation, but they hated meditation. It was like a punishment or something. They hated meditation. So I was like, okay, maybe I could teach them Qigong moving meditation and they could be in their body and learn how to sit with those feelings. And then so I incorporated more of that. And then it was starting to help them. And then
that's starting to see results with it.
Yeah, exactly. So I started seeing results with my weight loss clients. And then I was like, oh, I like this more than life coaching. So I like this more. And I really got into Eastern medicine. And that's when I made the shift to like, oh, just leave the life coaching.
And that sounds so beautiful because this started resonating with you, like being in your body through Qigong resonated with you from your own life experience.
Right.
And then you took that and you started applying that to your clients and you started seeing results. And this then made the most sense to you.
Right.
And you decided to take that up as a business.
Right. I was never intending to teach my coaching clients Qigong. When I started doing it, I was like, oh, this makes me feel so grounded and I could be present with my body. And I was like, oh, I think I could teach it to them. There was no coaching program out there that even knew about Qigong. I was like, so yeah.
Wow. That's such a beautiful journey of discovery.
Yes. It was all just experiential and just what I went through and just trial and error, seeing what's not working. And you're like, oh, actually this is working. That's what the entrepreneurial journey is like. Like what you're doing now can change literally like in months. You just don't know what will come up.
Yeah. And I think it is so important to be open to that adaptation and change because both you and I quit our jobs because we knew that this was not it.
Right.
But it takes a bit to arrive. It's because it's almost a journey of self-discovery of what is resonating with you, what calls to you. And it's not like you quit your job and you find it.
Oh, no.
Because
I wish it was that simple, but not quite.
No, sounds from your journey, because I'm in that place myself, right? I'm still discovering what it's going to be like. I have some feelings, but I don't have clarity of what the destination is going to be. Reflecting from your journey, you know, it was nursing, then you started life coaching, then you were into fitness, then you weren't even considering Qigong, but Qigong is kind of your baby right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's so surprising and beautiful.
Yeah. It's just so crazy how life unfolds when you're open. Like you said, as long as you're open and you're willing to just be receptive to things coming your way, then you'll see what really resonates. You won't know in the beginning. It's really just trial and error. It's like, you know, I thought in the beginning I wanted to do life coaching for a long time. And then once I was doing it, I was like, oh, actually, this isn't resonating anymore. And I think giving yourself that permission to evolve is really important, because when you start your business, you're going to think, you're going to have this dream and this vision of where you want to be. You're going to think that it's going to look a certain way. But when it doesn't unfold that way, I think it's important to give yourself the permission to allow that dream to shift a little bit, because what you're doing now just may not resonate with you for whatever reason down the road. And it's okay to give yourself that permission to shift, because I think we could get so locked into how things are supposed to be, and that could cause suffering in some ways.
And I think because you think, first I decided to do this, I spend my time doing this degree, I spend my time doing so long in this job, and then I quit this, and then I do this, and it's never ending. You feel like you're not stopping exploring, and you feel like you're not good enough to hold what you're doing. But it would be far from the truth, because you might not have found, as I say, your baby.
Right.
And from Charmaine's journey, we know it takes time to arrive at resonance with your heart, because your heart has called you to make the decision to quit, just so that you can be on the journey to explore what it is that matters to you the most.
Right.
How would you talk about fulfillment through this entire timeline of you nursing, doing life coaching, fitness, Qigong, your business at the moment? How do you feel about fulfillment? How has that evolved for you? The feeling of fulfillment, the understanding of fulfillment, how has that evolved for you through this journey?
Oh, that's a great question. Well, I think this is a great topic, because we always talk about our purpose, like our life purpose. And I think as entrepreneurs, especially, we put a lot of pressure of what the purpose is. And we have this sort of thought in our mind of like, oh, people who have a life purpose, they just do the same thing for 20 years and they're so good at it. And you're supposed to just have this one thing you're interested in, and that's your purpose. And we're giving ourselves pressure of like, we got to find our purpose and you know. But the thing about fulfillment and purpose is that it's more about what is fulfilling you in this moment, like right now. And of course, you don't want to be, there's a difference between fulfillment and dopamine.
Yes. That, I think the world struggles with this a lot.
Yeah.
Me included.
Oh, me too, girl. That's why I know. That's why I know firsthand, because I'm like, every second you want to change your niche, you want to change your modality, you want to change your whole program.
Yeah.
That's when you got to be really onto yourself. Okay, is this dopamine or is this fulfillment, you know? But I think it just requires, like you're saying, listening to your heart, being aware of, okay, what is really heart led versus what's led by the mind? What's an impulse versus a calling sort of thing? And that's going to look different for everyone. You sort of have to know that for yourself. And I think that's where meditation could be really helpful, because you have to know how to tune into your own inner knowing. There's some really great books out there that I like that could help. There's meditations on how do you tap into your inner wisdom and things like that. There's this book that I could tell you about later. I forgot the title of it, but she has a really good meditation there for tapping into your own inner knowing. But yeah, just be careful to know what's impulsive and what's really what you want to do. Something I do want to say is purpose and fulfillment won't feel good all the time. There are going to be many times where you're going to wake up and you're not going to feel like for me, I don't want to teach a class. I don't want to make my program, but you have to be careful not to confuse that with this is not my calling, because just because it feels uncomfortable in the moment doesn't mean that's not where you're supposed to be.
That's a very important point.
Yes.
How have you learned to navigate that?
Oh, well, first of all, because I was changing things left and right, and you start to chase the external. And when you start noticing that, you'll notice on yourself, like, am I constantly changing what I'm doing? Am I constantly changing my interest, changing my program, changing my niche so I could feel better? And when you catch that, like, if you just want to change everything every week, that's probably a sign that, you know, you're not allowing discomfort in some way. You're not allowing yourself to sit with the discomfort that, yes, it's true. Sometimes your business is going to be boring. Sometimes you won't want to do it. Sometimes it's just going to be repetitive. So you got to notice that. I like to give myself like a little bit of a timeline. I always say to myself, okay, if I want to do a business, I have to commit to it for at least a year minimum, because that will help me make sure I'm not just wanting to chase a dopamine hit. So I need to give myself a time frame, whether it's 6 months or a year. I need to give myself a time frame. And if at the end of that year, I feel miserable and I don't want to get up out of bed every day, then maybe it's not the thing for me. But you also have to accept, okay, there's boring things in your business. There's going to be clients you don't want to work with, or maybe creepy clients, or maybe there's going to be just times you don't feel like teaching a class, but that's just regular day-to-day emotions that you have to learn how to embrace as an entrepreneur. Because the more you could embrace those yucky emotions, the more resilient you'll be, and the more likely your business will thrive.
So now that we have had your business around for a little bit, how do you feel about it? Do you feel fulfilled even with these uncomfortable days?
Yes, there have been many uncomfortable days, but honestly, I feel more pumped about it lately. I'm in love with it. I love Eastern medicine. Every time I think about Eastern medicine and think about the chi and the meridians, I'm just like, oh, I love this stuff. I love learning about energy. It just lights me up.
Wow.
Right now in the moment, like, it feels really good. And I want to tell more people about it. So I feel like I'm more energized by it. And so, yeah, I try not to let the outcome, that's the one thing. It's like, if you keep focusing on the outcome, like, for me, that's hard. Oh, I don't have the clients yet. So therefore, maybe I need to abandon this business. But at the same time, I'm like, no, because I'm so tied to my mission. Like, I want to help people, and I love Eastern medicine. So you always want to tie it back to your heart and where your heart's going. But yeah, try not to get the outcome enmeshed with that. But yeah, at the moment, it feels very energizing. I'm like excited about it. I want it to grow. I want it to keep expanding.
And that's such a good point, because for me, it was also the discovery of something bringing me pure joy and making me feel love, as you said, because it energizes you every day. Something that is fulfilling to your heart, when you look at it, it's going to energize you and make you feel all these tingly love things.
Yes, the tingles. Right.
Just like you're in love with what you're doing, although the outcome might not be what you want it to be, because it takes time. It is also an exploration in itself. And you know, you got to follow the tinglies.
You got to.
Even if it's like kind of relating to, as you said, your husband, or relating to what you love to do, you know, there is like that deep knowing of joy that comes with what resonates with you. And people would ignore that because of the outcome, because the outcome is not what you want. But, you know, as so much is going around, sometimes the universe gives you what you couldn't have even imagined.
Right.
And in a way, your mind can be limiting, you know, because you might want a certain outcome, but you don't even know, you don't even have the capability to imagine what it can be.
Yes. Oh my God, I love that.
So in a way, I'm still struggling with manifestation. It's like, what do I want? But sometimes I keep going back and forth saying, I want to be open to what comes to my way, because my experience and what I want is limited. And sometimes things happen that are, I'm like, this is wild. How did that happen? And I couldn't have imagined that.
Right.
So there's always a struggle there. This is like the head and heart kind of thing. Where's your heart? It's like balancing these things. And I know there's so much of these manifestation things going around, but in my heart, I don't want to limit myself by thinking what I want. And sometimes it just feels good to be in the flow.
Oh, yes. I
Yeah.
like that.
Sometimes, I mean, again, I'm very, very new to the journey. Just a few months in, and I'm like, wow, I feel so amazing. But of course there are hard times, and I'm sure I'm going to come across something, but that's how I feel right now. And this is the thinking that I'm doing, but that's how I feel at the moment.
Yes. Yes, I love that. And you're right. Your mind is limiting. Like you won't know what's going to resonate. And I think the whole time in this journey, my heart has been my compass, and it's what led me to Qigong. Cause I was really struggling with, should I leave life coaching? Cause I had this whole vision of, oh, I'm going to be a life coach. I'm going to be successful in coaching and all these things. But then the more I did it, every day I was like getting so anxious going on these calls with clients, and I just didn't want to do it. And it was just constantly like that. And I was like, oh, okay. I think my heart, after like already a full year of that, I think my heart doesn't want to do this anymore. It's just, I was a life coach for like 3 to 4 years. I think it's okay to close this chapter and just like, I think this is where it's leading me to. So having that openness, it's just going to guide you and trusting that.
And I would like to applaud you for confronting yourself and sitting with that, because it seems like it happened a few times, right? With nursing, with your life coaching, with your fitness thing, like it happened a few times for you to arrive, but it takes courage to sit with yourself and accept that, it's not a easy thing to do, because I'm sure like people around us would be like, okay, this girl doesn't know what she wants in life.
Right. Absolutely. People who are my friends for in the past 10 years, they've seen my Instagram change probably like 20 times. Like, what's her Instagram handle today? Like, shut up. Mind your business. Okay.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. But that is also a truth. That is a truth.
I have so many Instagram handles, but anyway.
Good to know that might happen.
Yeah, which is okay. It's part of the journey.
It is okay. It is okay to accept that we don't know what we want in life right now, that there is a truth to it, and we have to hold space for it, because that's where I'm at right now. And it's okay. Is there any question that you would like to ask me? This is where the guest asks the host a question.
Oh, so interesting.
Yeah.
I'm curious for you. So how did you know it was time for you to leave your job?
So
I'm like, what were your cues?
I think growing up, there were a few things that I always wanted to do. I wanted to sing. For some reason, I always wanted to be in New Zealand.
Oh.
And I always wanted to be a social worker or, help, and I always had this very soft place for kids, because in India, it's a little unique, where you do not see this in the United States. You see homeless people in the United States, but it's not quite like the bagging system in India, where there are little kids who would approach you while you're in the car asking for money. So my heart always went out to these kids, because I'm here. There's this kid my age just outside my window asking for money, and I would just have a breakdown every time that happened. And growing up, I always wanted to be that. But of course, there is a financial security aspect of pursuing these things, right? And at that time, as a family, we decided that I should do a stable career. And I took architecture and then Masters of Urban Design. And then I was curious about transportation planning. I went into transportation planning. And mind you, all these things at the time that I was doing, I loved. I was so curious about it.
You should see her architecture plans. I'm like amazed, but go on.
But, I think it was always in the back of my head. If everybody asked me, what do you want to do when, you grow up, or maybe in the future, 10 years from now? And I used to be like, I want to be in philanthropy. I want to help children. And that's what I used to say. And last year, I was just like, what am I doing? People at work always knew that, okay, Abby's going to work with kids. And because I kept saying that, it was no surprise to them when I said at work, okay, I want to work with kids. They just didn't know the timing of it.
Right.
But for me to experience trauma as I did and uncover a lot of layers of my psyche, and knowing that I am waking up every day and I'm getting bored doing the same thing. And I was mentoring high school kids on the side, and just to see them grow so quickly in a month, having their personalities evolve, them honoring themselves, experiencing gratitude for themselves. And it was so fulfilling. Then at work, I was just like, I'm starting to feel disconnected. You know, people at work are also paying the price for you being disconnected. So
Right.
that
Exactly.
started happening, and it started showing come Christmas. It was Christmas holidays. I was just meditating a lot, and it was very, very hard to make that decision. I always knew I wanted to work with kids, but of course, like, I came for my master's to the United States, and there are things tied to the visa that I would have to stick to one profession because it is tied to my master's. So I could only be a transportation planner. And that was just not working out for me. And I always knew it in my heart that I want to work with kids, but I was just not leaving for the security of being here because, you know, I've been here 10 years. And just to keep disrupting your life like that geographically is a very, very hard decision to make. I don't want to move.
Yeah.
And disrupt my life again. So that was kind of holding me back from making that decision years ago. But when I experienced trauma last year in September, just asking myself these questions, if I'm happy, what brings me joy? And that is the point of, you said it energizes you. It was so strange that I looked at this course of early childhood development and I was thinking about it. And it got me so much joy. And I hadn't felt like that in a really long time. So just looking at that, and I was like, this is strange, you know? And I'm like, why am I feeling all these warm fuzzies,
the tingle
inside of me when I'm thinking of this? And, you know, I'm like, okay, you know, so I still hadn't thought that I'm going to quit my job. It's just something that I was going to do on the side, but just how the visa status works here, that you cannot be doing all these things together. Then because I'd realized this, right? Like, now I had found this magical joy that I was experiencing working with kids and looking at courses. I couldn't go back. You know, the thing is, like, I had not discovered it, right? I'd never spent time looking at a course where I thought that I would be working with kids all the time. Just having discovered that, it was just so hard to lie to yourself.
Right.
Yeah. And then I had to make that decision, and I knew what it would mean. It would mean for me to leave. It would mean disrupting my social circle yet again.
Right.
Because I've been moving every 2 or 4 years to new cities or new places. Of course, in 2015, it was moving countries and continents.
Yeah.
But, you know, it was just a very hard decision to make, and I was scared of it. But I just reflected and I asked, when was the last time I was this happy? I hadn't felt like that in a really, 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 really long time. And that's how I knew that I really had to quit my job. And now I'm here on this journey.
Yeah. I love that you opened yourself up to listen to that internal compass, and just, you know, you're taking the next steps, and you're also having that courage to go on your journey, which is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. And Charmaine, as we come to the end, how would you reflect from your entire journey, from your childhood, you know, schooling years, nursing years, life coaching years? How would you give yourself all the self-love? How would you reflect on how far you have come?
Oh my gosh, this is a loaded question. But what I would have to say, what comes to mind is, I would just want to tell myself, as young Charmaine, just, I think what she wanted to hear most is that she wanted to know that I want to let her know that I'm very proud of her. I think that's one thing she wanted to hear. I feel like a lot of what she wanted to do was to get love and approval and acceptance from someone else. And what I want to let her know, after going through all the things I went through in my journey, is that you're perfectly acceptable, perfectly lovable as you are in this moment. Nothing's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with the decisions you're making. Nothing's wrong with those nudges you're getting, even if they're different from everyone else. Your thoughts are valuable, and everything that you're doing is honoring you, and that's okay. And I'm very proud of you. I'm just very proud of you for your courage and for being different, for being unique. I'm proud of you for going on your path, even though it's something most people wouldn't do. You're so much stronger than you realize. You're just so much more capable than you realize. And even if it's uncomfortable, it's so worth it because you are becoming the person you are now. And it's someone who's so much more resilient and someone who's creative and someone who's helping the world. And I'm just so proud of you for choosing this path. Never regret your decision because it's worth it. Like everything you're doing is just worth it. So I'm very proud of you.
That is Charmaine Horn's little talk to herself.
Yeah.
And that is so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with me. Thank you for reflecting with me today and honoring yourself.
Oh, thank
I am
you.
so grateful that you chose to do that and spend this time with me doing that. And Charmaine, how can the viewers find you?
So I'm on Instagram. You could find me on Instagram at Oasis Qigong. That's OASISQIGONG. And then my website, oasisqigong.com. And then if you'd like to try Qigong for yourself, I have a YouTube channel. You could go to youtube.com/@Oasis Qigong.
Well, that brings us to the end of our episode. And thank you so much for joining me today. I am so grateful for your time and for you.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so excited for you too and your journey also.
Thank you. I would like to thank each one of you for tuning in. And I hope you take the time to love and accept yourself every day, no matter where you are on this journey. I pray that you take a minute to slow down, honor yourself, and reflect how far you've come. God bless you and all my love. I'll see you next time. Take care.